Hi everyone, it's Malka from Contemporary Books, and back after a brief hiatus, ready to talk about all the books I've enjoyed reading. I don't think there's an official start date to a new season in the publishing industry, but I do think September is a possible contender because these past few weeks, my to-be-read pile has grown exponentially. And while I've been vigorously reading, I have yet to finish any new books, and this is because I can't stop picking a new book. So apparently I have a problem. The two books that I'm currently reading right now are 2 Years, 8 Months, and 28 Days by Salman Rushdie and Stone Angels by Michael Hartigan. Both of these books were released very recently, and I've been devouring both of them. So hopefully next time you guys see me, I'll be able to tell you a little bit more about them. But in the meantime, I'm really excited to talk about a book that I have read. That book, my fellow readers, is Mark Twain's impressively detailed The Zebra Affaire. I read this book over 6 months ago, and I know it's a book worth reading because despite all the time that's gone by, I still think about the main characters and their story. The Zebra Affaire is an epic love story set against South Africa's unjust apartheid. Elsa and Stanwell play the star-crossed lovers, brought together by circumstance and fallen in love by choice. She's white and he's black, and so many things that lovers take for granted, Elsa and Stanwell long for. Their love story is a strong defiance against the apartheid. With a strong cast of characters, vivid details, and rich in historical facts, this book was an epic ride through South Africa's tumultuous apartheid era. This beautifully detailed book brings up a lot of great questions about racism, oppression, and the lingering effects of British colonialism. The author does a great job of bringing the characters to life. There was a lot of backstory involved, but it was necessary to validate the characters' choices and actions. And it makes sense to have a decent amount of background information in a novel that deals with something as ugly as racism and oppression. Among the characters that I still think about to this day is the lovely Elsa, who is at the center of this love story. She's a very admirable heroine. The novel chronicles her courage and selflessness, and I was rooting for her from the get-go. The magic of the storytelling was in the backstories of these characters, revealing only the necessary information that the reader needed to gain an understanding of the character's present actions. Elsa's backstory builds her up to be a very likable and relatable character, despite the fact that she may not share a background that's similar to many. This technique does a similar thing for Stanwell, who's Elsa's love interest. Despite his violent and difficult past, his backstory shows readers that he's a resilient player and he's not going anywhere without a fight. This aspect of storytelling comes in handy when the story's antagonist, Malin Xander, is introduced. He's the sadistic government official who's intent on ending Elsa and Stanwell's illegal relationship. The thing about writing about hatred is that too often villains turn into shallow, one-dimensional characters, and it's very easy for most writers to fall into that trap. But in this case, with an extensive backstory, Xander comes to life as a villain with depth. The result is a truly terrifying antagonist who jumps out at you from the page. Another interesting technique that the author did was, instead of utilizing footnotes to further explain certain aspects of South Africa's history, the author pauses the story in what he calls anywhere notes, and he gives a detailed historical account of its place in the story. It sounds like a bad idea on paper, but while reading the book, these brief passages provided a richness and depth to the text. So for a history buff like me, I thoroughly enjoyed reading about many different events and real-life characters who made an impact on the story's fictional characters. So the author's method of writing brought this book to a whole other level. On one end is the reader who's introduced to a troubling history, and on the other are characters thrown into that turmoil. So this made it feel less like a history book and more like a thrilling novel with a complex story to tell. Sure, there are many subtle ways to tackle history in books, but the boldness of this author's writing technique is truly memorable. The Zebra Affaire is filled with political drama and set against the backdrop of important social issues that are still relevant today. But it's a story of Elsa and Stanwell being hunted down by a sadistic government official that makes it for a thrilling and engrossing read. So if you want to learn more about this book and the author's writing style, I sat down with Mark and we discussed in detail about his writing technique and his inspiration for this book. You can check out all of this over at contemporarybooks.com. So that's it for this week. I'll be back next time to talk about great books and the amazing stories they tell.